besides the point. Who's our next team?
Next up, we have the Portland Trailblazers, or at least what is left of them. My question here is just, is a quick turnaround feasible? Because they've made their intentions quite clear that they're trying to do one of the simultaneous teardown scale ups, except they've messed up at like every step of the process. So they have a bunch of flexibility to do what exactly. This year's free agent class is actively awful. They aren't set up to add much of anything in the draft. So we're ultimately left looking at like a 5-man group of Damian Lillard, Anthony Simons, assuming he's re-signed, Yusuf Nurkic, assuming he's re-signed, Josh Hart, and Nasir Little. Yay. Like, is that enough to make any noise in the West?
It feels like even their best case outcome of the offseason is going to be more of a lateral move, if not still a regression. And look, my question's kind of similar in that what are they doing with the number 7 pick? And it's more so, who are they trading it for? And if you're not trading that pick at all, is Dame actually on board with this rebuild? He looked pretty crestfallen when they fell to number 7 in the lottery. And look, I'm going to be honest right now. I know Pistons fans think that they're getting the number 7 pick for Jeremy Grant. If the Blazers do that, that is going to be a significantly damaging move to their future. Jeremy Grant's a very good player, not super old. You're mortgaging a huge, I don't even know what the other moving parts of that deal would be, but it would be a basketball catastrophe if that's what you're turning the 7th pick into. And I know that these draft picks are more like ambiguous appeal than anything. It's the allure of who it could turn into. And then all of a sudden they'll draft someone and it won't be as valuable. Is it Shaedon Sharpe? Is it Keegan Murray? Whoever. At the same time, like, it's at least a viable, younger, like, prospect around whom you can potentially build. To punt on that flyer for Jeremy Grant,
even in a bad draft class.
And right. And I don't even think this draft class, I'm only like a little bit higher than shin deep. I said this on the previous podcast into draft prep. I'm like kind of not like I'm in on this draft class, not as much as last year's.
I think we see a lot of role players, which is valuable. I just don't know that you get like building blocks.
Well, here's the thing. Jeremy Grant is closer to role player than star, and you're going to give him the 4-year, $112 million.
I'm on board with you. I'm giving the caveat that this is all true, even with this being a weak draft class.
I was going to throw to you to ask, what do you think of the idea? And this is just operating on the assumption that, because look, you have Damian Lillard, who is age 32, correct? You have to move this pick if you want. Like, there's no, Dame's going to be in this for another 2 or 3 years and then we'll be good. No. That's not how this is going to work. Would you move other moving parts involved? Oh, the other thing I wanted to say, and you made this great point, they have this flexibility. It's basically all conditional because their cap space is sub-max. If they really want to, get rid of everything they need to inflate that number as high as possible, they're probably looking at, I don't know, like almost, let's say 24 million in space. You can then dump salaries to get to like a max for DeAndre Ayton if you want to go the sign and trade route, and figure that base year compensation out with Phoenix. At the same time, you're punting on the Jeremy Grant trade exception that you have. And so, like, I call it the Jeremy Grant trade exception because it's perfectly sized for Jeremy Grant. But like, you're not having both here. You have to operate basically as an over-the-cap team if you want to keep that trade exception. So their flexibility is very conditional, where it's like you can't have it all for them. I wanted to throw to you, would you give up the number 7 pick in a deal that got you Rudy Gobert or a deal that gets you Brogdon and Miles Turner?
I probably would in either of those instances, partially just because I am lower on this draft class, but also because, selfishly, I want to see Dame stay in a Portland Trailblazers uniform. He's one of those players that feels so attached to a city. And, player autonomy is great and fully promote that. But also, like, I love the idea of these legitimate superstars staying in one jersey forever. And if there's a chance for that to happen because there's an immediate move of that caliber, we're talking about something way better than Jeremy Grant with either of those situations. With Rudy Gobert, all of a sudden, you have a great rim rolling threat who completely transforms what Portland can do on defense. And the same is true with the Indiana Pacers move, just albeit on a lower scale with Turner, who also gives you some pop, and you're picking up Brogdon in that deal, who is very much a jack of all trades, can fit alongside Dame. So in either instance, I think the reward is worth the risk.
I would be curious what the Rudy Gobert deal needs to look like because with Utah, if you're giving up Gobert, you're not getting better. But I also don't know that you're trying to rebuild. And
I'm just still assuming that Gobert's in Charlotte already.
You're going to make a lot of people in Atlanta mad with that comment. So I think I'm with you too. I would do both instances. I'm a little bit more iffier on the Pacers one because I don't love the Brogdon extension anymore. But you can pair him with Simons and Dame, and that's fine. Yeah. Then you have Josh Hart there, presumably still. But Turner's coming up on his next contract. And then is Nurk all of a sudden just you're letting him walk for nothing, I guess, in either of those scenarios? Or are you keeping Turner and Nurk because they're a sign and trade for Nurk? My bonus question really quickly was, do you think Anthony Simons is getting max or near max money in restricted free agency?
I don't think so. I think it's a tier or two short.
I'm just wondering if the Pistons falling to 5 hurts this theory. I actually wonder if they become a DeAndre Ayton suitor now because they missed out on all those bigs. I thought they might have been a team. Just him next to Cunningham would have been super interesting. I will say I'm kind of with you in the sense that there's just not enough money out there. And so unless it's going to be Detroit, Indiana, Orlando, or San Antonio, I don't know which of those teams. Detroit might, but if they're going to draft Jaden Ivey, they shouldn't. They don't have the incentive. I really don't think Simons is Simons and DeJounte Murray would be like a really intriguing backcourt.
That'd be fun.
They kind of have like this overstock of swingmen / wings already with Vassell. Josh Primo is there. Trey Jones emerged. So, and they just don't, that's not San Antonio's game. But let's go max out or near max out this other team's free agent, unless he's LaMarcus Aldridge, apparently. So, and Orlando just has so much of everything.
Such a glut everywhere.
Right. And a lot of it is guard. So to go after Simons would be a little bit weird. But it wouldn't surprise me if he just signs a deal with, let's set the over-under on his salary. His max could be 30.5. I'm going to say 22 million.
I was coming in around 24.
So over.
So a little over. Unless he decides to go to the Lakers on the mid-level.
Go the Malik Monk route, but make a little bit more money than Malik Monk did.
Right. Exactly.